7:15, you're looking at security camera video from yesterday here on our very own building. Once the earthquake hit at 1:41 yesterday afternoon. There's people scrambling to get outside. There I go. Oh, boy. And I'm sure it was like that in a lot of businesses, a lot of buildings around Ottawa yesterday. Brian Cousins is here from Carleton University. You're an earth sciences professor.
That's right.
You were in your office at the time?
That's right. I was in my office and felt this rumble, and we have construction going on next door. So I thought, oh, maybe it's construction. But then it lasted more than about 2 or 3 seconds. And ooh.
Exactly.
So got up and just headed for the door frame.
Yeah,
and, just
that
stood in
is the best advice if you're in a building, right?
Absolutely. You were showing people going outdoors. If you're going out onto a crowded street with lots of tall buildings, there's a danger of falling bricks and glass and things. You either want to find a room with a small room, lots of walls, or be in a door frame. It's the best place to be.
Yeah,
strongest part of a room.
We did not follow the emergency protocol yesterday. I mean, outside of us, there's a giant condo across the street. That's not a good place to be.
Well, it's a little scarier place to be, that's for sure.
Now, let's talk about the earthquake itself, the event itself.
Right.
5.0 on the Richter scale is what it's been narrowed down to.
That's right.
Is that a large tremor? Is that something significant?
Well, for the Ottawa area, that's on the high end. We have lots of 3.5s and 4s, and even some 4.5s that you might feel if you're sitting in a room and not doing very much. By the time you get up to magnitude 5, that's when things start to really shake. And there have been earthquakes in the Ottawa area, as you showed on a graphic this morning, as high as 6.2 in the Temiskaming area.
Right.
And that would certainly cause a lot of damage if that was to happen in Ottawa.
And it's certainly felt over a wide path, is it not? Even
right.
Yesterday's was, kind of about 60 kilometers north, so even further north, you would expect that there were some rumblings from it.
Absolutely.
And all along our area, even into the eastern seaboard of the U.S., some people say Cleveland felt the
Cleveland,
effects.
I hear Boston reported that they felt it.
Yeah.
When you have this was a moderate depth earthquake, around 18 kilometers or so. The deeper it is, in general, the broader the waves tend to travel, and the larger the felt area is going to be.
What causes earthquakes like this, Brian? What happens?
Well, like this famous San Andreas fault in California, you have a fault. You have a break in the rocks, and there's motion that occurs along those. And over time, the energy in the rocks is stored until you can actually force the rocks to separate.
Right.
In the Ottawa area, we don't have a San Andreas type fault, but we do have a lot of old faults. For example, the scarp between the Gatineau Hills and us is a major fault. They're old, but there's still stresses in North American crust. It's shifting around. Stress builds up along these faults, and every now and then energy gets released, and that's what forms an earthquake.
Yeah, it's a shifting of the Earth's surface.
That's correct.
And we say surface, although it was 18 kilometers deep. That's still the crust of
It's still the upper
planet.
part, absolutely.
Yeah. Can we expect more of sort of this activity? Because in a lot of people's minds, and for a lot of people, yesterday's was the first kind of experience along those lines where they actually saw and felt things moving from an earthquake. Does we hear a lot about aftershocks in other parts of the world. In Chile comes to mind, and that sort of thing. Does this mean there could be aftershocks from a tremor like this?
There would be lots of probably very small ones. Again, ones you would not be able to feel, magnitude 2, magnitude 3 even. But you wouldn't expect to have another one of magnitude 5. These aren't the right kinds of faults to give you those kinds of large aftershocks, such as the Haitian fault, for example. They had aftershocks for weeks afterwards, some of which were almost as large as the major earthquake itself.
And aftershocks are, in fact, individual tremors, are they not?
That's right. It's still the rocks shifting along the fault. And the problem with aftershocks is the main shock comes in, shakes everything really good. It might not bring all the buildings down, but then the aftershock comes through and then causes a lot more collapse afterwards in these weakened buildings. So if you're in an area such as the Haiti earthquake, you want to get out of the buildings really fast because you know that probably more are coming. Here, we don't have to worry about that quite so much.
Yeah. Interesting, though, and especially for someone like you who studies this sort of activity, to see what happens when an earthquake, and a valid earthquake, actually took place.
This is my first sort of really easily felt one since I moved from Santa Barbara, California here to Ottawa.
Right.
Of course, I experienced several in California.
No doubt.
And right on them, and it's just like a freight train going right over your house. This felt quite different. So I knew we weren't close to the epicenter, but it still was a pretty strong one. So I knew it was a considerably sized earthquake.
Imagine we're that far away and still, 30 seconds of a solid shake.
Oh yeah.
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 Brian, thanks for coming in today.
Very
Pleasure
welcome.
To meet
Pleasure.
You. Pleasure. Brian Cousins is at the Earth Sciences Department at Carleton University and studies earthquakes and the like. Very cool.